Hey everybody, it's Steele here. In this video, I want to explain to you the rules of applying the 5-swing pitchfork. I got a comment in one of the videos, or one of the pitchfork videos I did. I think it was the one where I mentioned I might redo the 5-swing pitchfork videos. And they asked me to redo the 5-swing pitchfork video, so I figured, why not go ahead and do that? I was looking at this chart of General Motors and looking at some other stuff online too, and came across that comment that was just recently made. So I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and do the 5-swing pitchfork rule set video. Now, I want to preface all this with the fact that I do not use these anymore. Now, that doesn't mean they can't be used to help you, but I don't personally use pitchforks this way anymore. I've gone on to other ways, and some of them I've put on videos for you guys and gals out there. But nonetheless, I'm going to go ahead and go over the rules. And you can take them and use them as is, or modify, or ignore. Completely up to you. Now, the reason I came up with the 5-swing pitchfork is because when I very first started trading and started using geometric things like pitchforks, and before I got to really deep into anything Gann or Elliott Wave or anything like that, when applying the pitchforks, I never really knew for sure where I should put the fork at. For instance, I could make a fork like this, with a little swing like that, and it catches the price movement for quite a while. It does fairly decently until it falls out of it. Sometimes pitchforks could be really skewed. Like you get a high, you get a low, you get another high right there. That's absolutely useless, obviously. This one right here is, you get a 1. Let me draw this again. 1, 2, 3 like that. And really, that's pretty useless. It doesn't do much of anything because they're really skewed. So I wanted to develop a set of rules that would help me create a pitchfork that would be useful for a fair amount of time. And I tried different rules and all this kind of stuff with a standard pitchfork, and it just didn't offer me what I needed, or I thought I needed at that point in time, to create the pitchforks like I thought would be really useful. So I decided to incorporate 2 extra swings of the market's movements, 2 extra pivots, into the pitchfork so that I could get more information from the market to make the pitchfork with. In other words, I had more swings to build rules around, is what it really boiled down to. So the very first rule when drawing a 5-swing pitchfork is you can start the 5-swing pitchfork at any top or any bottom. Okay? Pretty simple, right? Yeah. So point 1 of this pitchfork can be any top or any bottom. It could be here, just anywhere on the chart. But then we have other rules to follow. Point 2, the second rule, point 2 is the very next swing after point 1. So you can decide the amplitude of the swing you want by yourself. We could, if this is point 1, then this could be point 2 right here. Or this could be point 2 right here, and we use larger swings. It's completely up to the person drawing the 5-swing pitchfork. So the first 2 rules are pretty easy. The third rule is that the third swing has to be a retracement of the price movement from point 1 to point 2. In other words, it's the next swing. Now, there's a caveat with that, an asterisk, if you will. If point 3 does not move past point number 1, then point number 4, or swing number 4, has to move past point number 2. Okay? So, rule 1, any swing to start, any swing top or bottom to start. Rule 2 is that the next swing is point 2 of the pitchfork. Rule 3 is that the next swing after point 2 is the third swing of the pitchfork. But if point 3 does not move past point number 1, then point 4 has to be past point number 2. Okay. Hopefully that's clear enough for you. So point number 4 And so we have, if we have 0.1 here, let me actually draw this. 1, we have 0.2 here, just to make this a bit clearer. 2, we'll use this for 0.3 right here. Pretty simple. All right, there's a 3. So since 3 didn't go past point number 1, point number 4 has to be past point number 2, so we can't use this or this as point number 4. It has to be at least this. So we use this swing right here. So there's point number 4. Now, the next rule is that point number 5 has to retrace at least 88% of the swing from point 3 to point 4. Okay, so for the fifth swing to be valid, or the last point of the chart to be valid, or the last point of the pitchfork to be valid, it has to retrace at least 88% of this move here in this particular instance. Now we see that this swing up here does not do that, and then it makes a lower low, so that means that point 4 is moved out of necessity. Then point 5, we wait and we see the market comes up here, it comes down here, and eventually it comes all the way up here. Now obviously in hindsight it's easy to see that this would be 0.5, but as the market's drawing out each day, we see this is the first day right here where we get far enough where it'd be at least an 88% retracement. So we just wait, the next day goes higher, the next day goes higher, the next day is an inside day, so we're almost ready to draw 0.5, but then we go higher and higher, and the inside day we're almost ready to draw 0.5, we go higher, and then we go down, and then down further. So at this point we can go ahead and draw 0.5. That doesn't mean it's going to stay 0.5, but because right here we did peak out just a little bit higher in a couple of days. If that becomes the case, I just moved the point. So we have point 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the rules are very simple. Any swing top or bottom for point 1, the next pivot for point 2, the next pivot for point 3. If point 3 is not past point 1 in price, then point 4 has to be past point 2 in price. Now, if point 3 does go past the point 1, then point 4 does not have to go past point 2. Okay, that needs to be made clear. It can go past point 2, but it does not have to, as long as point 3 goes past point number 1. So we have our 5 points drawn here. Now, when actually applying the pitchfork itself, obviously the pitchfork has 3 points that you put on the chart. And when you make, or when I was making the 5 swing pitchforks, I would draw point 1. Let me get the pitchfork right there. Point 1 would go at number 1. Point 2 of the pitchfork would go at number 4. And then point 3 of the pitchfork would go at number 5. So there is an example of a properly drawn, according to the rule set I made up many years ago, a 5 swing pitchfork. And we can see that this pitchfork works very well for quite a while into the future. Market moves down to the median line and just follows it down beautifully, comes up almost to the top of the top line there, finds resistance right around that area, comes down, so forth and so on. So now keep in mind that this is not something that you're going to use to predict something way out into the future. It's just a rule set that I came up with for myself and made videos on it later to draw pitchforks a specific way so that they pretty much drew out reasonably well all the time for me. In other words, the proportions of the pitchforks were always acceptable, or most of the time acceptable. Now we could change this fork up a little bit. Let me delete it. We'll start point 1 up here, but we can make this point 2 right there. Just move this text and we have a much smaller pitchfork. Point 3 would be right up here, just like that. Now point 4 has to be below here because point 3 did not make it past 4, or I'm sorry, past number 1 right there. So this would be 0.4 right down here, and then we have to have at least an 88% retracement. So I measure this and see that we have 75. It's close, but I don't think it actually is. Let me configure this to show 88%, and I'm going to make this a red line. Where are you at? I don't think I turned it on. Oh, there we go. So that's 88% retracement. So I did not get a retracement that hit 88%. So what does that mean? That means the market has come down and we have to redraw number 4. So number 4 comes down here where I had it originally, remember? Again, we don't get an 88% retracement, so number 4 comes down here, like that. So, move text. Again, we wind up with a pitchfork that starts here and has its second point here and its third point here. So in other words, we wind up with exactly the same pitchfork drawn out just like this. Point 1 goes on number 1, point 2 for the pitchfork goes on number 4, and point 3 goes on number 5. We get exactly the same pitchfork, even though we used smaller swings in this particular instance, because the market, well, because of the rules. So the rules and the market followed rules that kept it as a larger pitchfork that worked better, in other words. If we did not have the rules in place and just drew like point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4, and then that's point 5, the pitchfork would look like this. And while that was accurate, in quotes, to the point where we did come back to the median line right here, and then when the market fell down here, it was on here, but it was not as useful as the other pitchfork that was drawn. Hope that makes sense. So let me find one more instance here. Let's back up here and do this one right here. So that's our point 1 right there. Here's point 2. Point 3 right up here. We'll use this top, and it did not go past, whoops, I just copied it. 3 did not go past 1, so 4 has to go past 2, which we did right there. Move that, and then we did retrace over 100%. So number 5 is right here, so that pitchfork would be drawn like this. 1, 2, and 3. Now again, here we have a pitchfork that's drawn where the market follows it, does what it normally does. It finds decent consolidation right here. The support was a little lower. It would have been the halfway point here. But we find consolidation right on the median line. We move to the bottom line, back up here. I mean, this is quite obviously, and then it gaps out of the pitchfork right here. But again, the rules caused us to draw a pitchfork that was long-lasting, so to speak. If we had drawn this as the pitchfork right here, we see that the price movement, I mean, this would be classical, right? 1 swing, 2 swing, 3 swing, and then the price moves out of it very rapidly. So the 5 swing pitchfork used the same starting point and the same size swings, but was able to be placed on the chart in a way that the price stayed within the pitchfork for much, much longer. In other words, it was a more valid pitchfork, it could be viewed as. Now let me show you one more example, slightly more extreme. Let's say I picked this low down here to be point number 1. So that's point number 1. This becomes point number 2. This becomes point number 3, which is obviously nowhere near lower than point number 1. So point 4 has to move past point number 2. Okay? Now, look. We see this is the market currently. This, we have not, point 4 has to be up here somewhere, and it has to be past point 2 because point 3 was not past point 1. So in reality, this pitchfork cannot be drawn as per the rule set yet. Interesting, huh? So we would have to wait for the price to eventually get way up here for that to happen.